In the fiery cauldron of American politics, where every word can ignite a storm, a new showdown has taken center stage. This time, the spark wasn't just about legislation or policy. It was about legacy, memory, and the attempt to weaponize the words of one of America's most iconic figures, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It began in a tense congressional hearing. Representative Jasmine Crockett, already known for her sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude, was sitting across from a panel of colleagues determined to corner her. One particular opponent leaned forward, eyes flashing with rehearsed righteousness, and pulled out a line from Ginsburg's past. The goal was clear: to use the late Supreme Court Justice's words as a trap, a weapon meant to silence Crockett and diminish her credibility. Even Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, the opponent began, pausing dramatically as if unveiling an irrefutable truth. The room grew still. The cameras zoomed in. Every reporter in the chamber leaned closer to capture what they thought would be the knockout punch. But if there is one thing history has proven, it's that Jasmine Crockett doesn't play the role of an easy target. Before her opponent could finish the quote, Crockett straightened in her chair. Her eyes narrowed, her hands folded deliberately on the table, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of both fury and clarity. "Don't you dare," she began, "take the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the fiercest defenders of justice this country has ever known, and twist them into a weapon against progress. Justice Ginsburg spent her life fighting for equality, for truth, and for the right of women to speak without fear of being silenced. If she were alive to hear you misuse her words, she would stand on this side of the table with me." The room shook. A murmur spread through the crowd like wildfire. Journalists scribbled frantically, cameras caught every second, and even those who came in skeptical found themselves leaning toward Crockett's fiery defense. But she wasn't done. "You think quoting Ginsburg makes you untouchable?" Crockett pressed on, her tone rising with every syllable. Justice Ginsburg didn't stand for selective memory. She stood for context. She stood for balance, and she stood for courage. To weaponize her voice against me, or against any woman in this chamber, is not only dishonest, it is an insult to her legacy. Her words echoed like a hammer in a courtroom, and suddenly, the strategy that had been crafted so carefully by her rivals collapsed in real time. What was meant to corner Crockett had instead unleashed a defense so powerful it flipped the script entirely. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips of Crockett's rebuttal flooded X, TikTok, and Instagram. She invoked Ginsburg to defend Ginsburg, one user posted, garnering thousands of likes. "This wasn't just politics, it was poetry," another wrote. Hashtags like hashtag Crockett clapback and hashtag RBG spirit began trending. And then came the unexpected twist. Former clerks of Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself weighed in online. One tweeted, "Jasmine Crockett is right. Justice Ginsburg hated when her words were stripped of context. She would have been proud of this response." In that moment, the debate wasn't about policy anymore. It was about authenticity, respect, and the courage to stand firm in the face of manipulation. Crockett hadn't just defended herself. She had defended the integrity of an American icon. What made the scene so powerful wasn't just the words themselves, it was the delivery. Crockett's fiery tone, her unshakable presence, and the raw conviction in her eyes turned what could have been a forgettable exchange into a viral political moment. She didn't simply respond, she transformed an attack into a rallying cry. Even her critics, those who had come to the hearing hoping for her downfall, struggled to recover. The soundbite they had planned to use against her was now completely unusable because Crockett had taken ownership of the narrative. She had turned the supposed Ginsburg trap into a reminder of what true leadership looks like. Political analysts were quick to weigh in. On evening talk shows, commentators debated whether this was Crockett's defining moment. Some argued that it showcased her ability to channel righteous anger into constructive power. Others claimed it was evidence of a rising star who knows how to weaponize the truth better than her opponents can manipulate it. But for everyday Americans watching at home, the takeaway was far simpler. Jasmine Crockett had stood her ground. She had taken a weapon meant to destroy her and turned it into a shield, not just for herself, but for the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and every woman who refuses to be silenced. By the end of the week, the clip had been viewed millions of times. News outlets around the world picked it up with headlines blaring phrases like, Crockett channels RBG and viral showdown, and how one fiery rebuttal changed the narrative. And as the dust settled, one truth became undeniable. They had tried to use Ruth Bader Ginsburg's words against Jasmine Crockett. But instead, Crockett had breathed new life into those words, turning them into a torch that lit the path forward. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a statement. A reminder that history doesn't belong to those who twist it. It belongs to those who honor it, defend it, and carry it forward.